Hello, my name is Carl Williams, and this is my story. Um, I got into the house remodeling, house flipping business, pretty early on, and just kind of found a knack with it. Just love kind of working with my hands and rebuilding stuff and making home repairs and everything. And I just thought if I could just kind of savvy the business side of that, it might be a good combination. And it was, and I still do it to this day, and I enjoy it. Well, one day I decided to take a plunge myself and buy my first home. And I bought a small little house, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, kitchen, living room, backyard, front yard, and a little fence around it. And started doing remodeling on it and having some fun. And one day I was doing some painting in the living room, and I saw an imperfection on the wall. And it looked like somebody had repatched a hole in it, And so, for some reason, most of the times, I would just paint over it and not even think a lick of it, just whatever, move on. But for some reason, I took my hammer and I started banging a hole into it and kind of uncovering what was underneath it. And I happened to actually hit a jackpot in this one. I found a small, little, tiny, old coffee can, and inside was a small diamond ring and an old photograph of 2 young people from like the 40s or 50s. Weird. And as I just look at it, and I just, it's very interesting, and I put it back in the can and the picture and set it on the table, and I go back to work and I continue my day, and I fix the wall, I paint and everything, and I don't think much of it. And then eventually it just kind of hits me, this kind of ring picture. And of course I'm kind of obligated a little bit by some of the laws with having a house. I mean, there's a diamond ring in this. I could just keep it and whatever, but I'm a good Samaritan, and I think that I don't want it. It's just a little diamond ring. I don't care, but I have to contact people. And luckily I can do that. So I start looking into who used to own the home, who once had it. I go down the list. I go to the city hall, get the paperwork and everything, and I find out that the man who owned the home, the man in the photograph, was married. And that was him and his wife back in the 40s and the 50s. And that ring happens to be his wife's. And she died at a very young age, and they had a couple of kids. And then those kids had kids, and of course they had grandchildren. And the old man that owned the house before I did, that's where he lived, and that's where he raised his family. And so I find all this information out, and I'm just like really amazed by this story. And so I find out who the grandkid is. It's a young girl about my age, and she lives in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And I'm like, okay, well, she is the next of kin. She deserves the ring and the photograph and the story. So I go find her, and I email her and everything, and she's totally stoked and just stupefied. So I fly out to Pittsburgh, I meet her and everything, and she opens the door. She's just gorgeous, beautiful. And it's like something out of a fairy tale or a movie, you know what I mean? It's nuts. I give her the ring, tell her a story, I give her everything, and we just start chatting. We spent like 5, 6, 7 hours just chatting about our lives, where we come from, how I came up with the house, etc. And then it was just gorgeous. It was just really, really fun and really beautiful. And I liked her a lot, so much that I made up a lie, and I stayed an extra night in Pittsburgh. And then I called her up and I said, would you like to hang out with me again? She said yes. Shot out of the dark. Didn't think it was going to work, but it worked. We went on this nice evening, we talked more, it was all romantic, it was beautiful. And, but of course the fun had to end. I had to go back home. I don't live in that state, I gotta come back. And there it laid. And for maybe about a month, just thought about her. Couldn't get it out of my head. And eventually I get a telephone call. And it's her. She's got my number for insurance purposes and for the whole thing. And she calls me, and I'm like, wow, what's going on? She says, would you be willing to hang out with me again sometime? And I'm like, well, yeah, of course. So one flight out again becomes 2 flights, and 3 flights become 2 dates, and then she starts flying out, and 3 dates become 5 and 7 and 8 dates, and all of a sudden we just realize that we're 2 crazy kids, we can't stop this, and we start, of course, well, we're dating, but then we just fall in love, and I'm happy to report that I married her. I married that girl, and we're obviously happily married, and we're expecting a child, and we still live in that house that I renovated, that I bought, that is her grandfather's, and we're starting our own little treasure and our own little family. And just a weird little coincidence. I find something, it leads me to somebody, and the whole cycle kind of continues on, I guess. Yeah. Pretty weird. But yeah, that's my story. Thank you very much. Thank you.